Next area that I just want to go and touch on very briefly is just the fact that in science we go and we have a spiral curriculum that most of us will go and work to in comparison to a linear curriculum. So a spiral curriculum is one where there's a kind of a revisiting of topics as you go through, right? So students will go and come across same or similar themes over a course. So a spiral curriculum is not simply the repetition of a topic at all. It requires kind of the deepening of students' understanding and building on previous knowledge. So when we go and we think about this in terms of curriculum design, so the curriculum needs to have some sort of coherent pathway that goes through all the key stages, going all the way through key stage 1, all the way up to key stage 5. But also within our key stage 3 curriculum, it also needs to go and have a coherent pathway, right, to allow the students to go and develop the knowledge and skills that will allow them to go and reach their full potential as they go and work through. Right, so this begins with a well-structured Key Stage 3 particular curriculum, leading on from what students have covered at Key Stage 2, whilst also providing students with both the extra substantive knowledge, so the stuff that they need to know, and the disciplinary knowledge, so the stuff that they need to be able to do, primarily in terms of practical skills and analytical skills and such forth, that will help them go and reach their full potential by the time they go and get to the end of Key Stage 4, moving on into Key Stage 5. So the Key Stage 4 curriculum is very much dependent on what we do at Key Stage 3. So it's really important that we consider this spiral curriculum as we go in and we're going through and we're moving on. So a spiral curriculum allows students to build on previous concepts, gradually increasing their own mastery of it to as the level of complexity increases. So in terms of the knowledge that they're getting, they'll go and they'll come across similar concepts again and again that they'll be able to go and build on. In terms of them going and improving some of those disciplinary skills, so things like using graphs and such forth, that also needs to be spiraled up and considered within your curriculum as you go and work through to allow students enough time to go and develop those skills. So the more time students are exposed to a concept or some sort of skill, the greater chance that it will pass into their long-term memory. So each time that when we as teachers revisit a concept, it increases either in depth or complexity. So finally, students, when they go and revisit it, they'll be able to go and activate that prior knowledge that we've gone and built into a curriculum by having it spiraling through. So if we're looking at how we can use this to go and really improve students understanding, I just want to go and give you a quick example. Right. So, like I've said, it's a well-established fact that the science curriculum is always going to be a spiral curriculum. So, if we just take an example of how gas exchange systems in organisms work, that is something that's spiraled through all the way from Key Stage 2 all the way to Key Stage 5. So, what we do, the real like meat of it that we go and get students to understand at Key Stage 3 is really important. And the way that we need to think about doing this is important. So at Key Stage 2, students will have identified the main parts of the human circulatory system, and they might be able to go and describe some of the functions of the heart and blood vessels and blood and such forth. So once they go and they reach Key Stage 3, you can then go and build on this idea of a circulatory system in the fact that the blood is then carrying around oxygen around the body and such forth. And this also goes and gives you the opportunity to go and correct any of those misconceptions that students might have. So, for instance, my pet hate, blood is never blue when it's got no oxygen in. So we can then go and move on and increase this complexity by, in later modules, talking about how this goes and interacts with the breathing system and how oxygen passes from the air into the blood and such forth. And later on, we then spiral back around to this in our curriculum when we finally go and start looking at respiration, because students will need to understand all of that prior knowledge that you've built on, right? That you've gone and you've factored into your earlier curriculum, right? So, and finally, once we get to Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5, we'll continue to go and build on this. So thinking about having that spiral curriculum and putting in place those building blocks, so those key ideas that students can then go and develop over a period of time, is really important when you start going and thinking about sequencing how you're going to go and structure your curriculum.